constant geopolitical pressures, and practically bone dry when it comes to the natural resources that have fueled, like, so many other nations' success stories. Yet here's Israel boasting a GDP per capita that rivals some of the biggest players in the world. So how on earth did this tiny nation, surrounded by, let's face it, historical tensions, transform itself into what everyone's calling the startup nation? It really makes you wonder, what lessons can their journey offer to other countries grappling with their own unique challenges? Well, that's exactly what we're here to uncover. Our deep dive starts in the 1980s. Israel's facing an economic crisis of, honestly, almost unimaginable proportions. Think inflation rates exceeding 350%, the kind of economic roller coaster that makes today's headlines in places like Turkey or Lebanon feel, well, almost calm by comparison.
It's a pretty stark reminder that economic miracles don't just appear out of thin air. In Israel's case, their initial reliance on a heavily state-controlled economy, while probably well-intentioned, ended up contributing to stagnation. And as you've said, a pretty desperate need for a U-turn by the 1980s. What's really fascinating is how they decided to navigate this crisis.
It was a big gamble, wasn't it? Almost like hitting the reset button on their whole economic system.
Exactly. And that reset button came in the form of a 5-part economic stabilization plan. Each part carefully crafted to tackle a specific part of the crisis.
Let's break those down. What were the key ingredients of this economic magic potion?
The first up, slashing public spending. This wasn't just a little budget trim. This was a bold move to put the brakes on inflation by significantly reducing the flow of money into the economy.
The necessary evil, maybe? But I bet it didn't exactly win them any popularity contests back then.
Not at all. But it was a make-or-break first step to restoring a bit of confidence. Next, they went for the heart of monetary control by setting the Bank of Israel free, giving them the power to raise interest rates without any political interference, basically giving them the autonomy to safeguard the shekel, which they had just introduced.
So it was about building a solid base for a strong currency. What came next?
The third move was, perhaps the most gutsy, devaluing the shekel in the global market. A calculated risk for sure. The goal, make Israeli exports more appealing and give the shekel a boost in usage. But a gamble nonetheless.
It seems counterintuitive, devaluing your currency to strengthen your economic position. Why was this step so crucial?
They needed to rebuild trust, both with their own citizens and with investors worldwide. And a stable, realistically valued currency was the key to that.
So by the late 1980s, spending cuts, a newly empowered central bank, and a strategically devalued currency all came together. They managed to get inflation under control and stabilize the shekel. But that's just part of the story, right? This isn't just about numbers on a spreadsheet, it's about people.
Exactly. And that's where Israel's story takes a very interesting turn. With a stable economy, they were able to zero in on their most powerful asset, their people. Think about it. Israel invests twice as much as the United States in research and development.
It's that classic saying in action: give a man a fish and you feed him for a day. Teach a man to fish and you feed him for a lifetime. Or in this case, teach a nation to innovate and you empower them for generations.
And they've been incredibly strategic about it. The government rolled out a whole bunch of incentives, tax breaks, zero-interest loans, you name it all, designed to pull in private investment, especially in those booming tech sectors.
This wasn't about playing favorites, was it? It was about creating a space where innovation could explode.
Exactly. And it's this strategic thinking that birthed Silicon Wadi, as Tel Aviv's become known.
More than just a catchy nickname, though, right? Silicon Wadi represents a total cultural shift. This understanding that Israel's future success wouldn't come from digging up natural resources, but from cultivating brainpower.
Exactly. And it goes beyond just the financial aspect. It's about cultivating a culture that values risk-taking, thinking outside the box. That relentless pursuit of solutions, it's like it's in their DNA. And of course, this strategic investment just happened to line up with a pretty fortunate historical event.
You mean the wave of highly skilled professionals coming from the former Soviet Union in the 1990s? Talk about being in the right place at the right time.
It's one of those historical quirks, isn't it? Makes you think about how much of life is chance and how much is strategy. Almost like overnight, Israel's already growing tech scene was flooded with almost 1 million scientists, engineers, doctors.
Like pouring gasoline on a fire that's already burning strong.
Exactly. And it wasn't just about the sheer number of people, it was the diversity. They brought in so many different ways of thinking, a whole range of experiences and expertise, all the things you need for a real innovative ecosystem.
So they laid the groundwork with some really smart economic policies and this cultural commitment to innovation. Then throw in this wave of incredible talent, It's no surprise Israel has become a global leader in things like cybersecurity, artificial intelligence, healthcare. Investors must be drooling over this.
Absolutely. These aren't just vanity projects, these sectors. They're attracting major global investment. What's remarkable is how open it all is. Many of these companies are listed right on the American Stock Exchange, so it's relatively easy for investors to get a piece of the action.
So it's not just about understanding how the global markets work, it's about spotting potential, right? Speaking of which, you mentioned a BlackRock ETF that gives diversified exposure to the Israeli market.
Right. The iShares MSCI Israel ETF, it leans heavily towards technology and healthcare, mirroring what's driving Israel's growth. And while, past performance isn't everything, it's worth pointing out that this ETF has consistently done better than broader emerging market ETFs. But of course, like with any investment, you've got to weigh the risks. Currency fluctuations, geopolitical instability, the kind of stuff that's always on the table in a complex region like the Middle East.
Risk and reward, the two go hand in hand. Let's dive into some of the specific companies that have caught your eye. Who are the big innovators shaking things up? The ones shaping the future?
Well, in cybersecurity, you've got to keep your eye on Wiz. Founded just a few years back, and bam, they're already valued at $10 billion. Their specialty: cloud security. Addressing those weak points in a world that's becoming more and more reliant on the cloud.
From zero to $10 billion in just a few years, that's mind-blowing. What's their secret? What makes them different?
People are praising their approach to threat detection and response. It's all about identifying and neutralizing threats as they happen in real time. Plus, they're tapping into a market that's exploding as more and more businesses move everything to the cloud.
So Wiz is definitely one to watch. Who else is making waves in the cybersecurity world?
CyberArk is another heavy hitter.
Yeah.
They're all about protecting what they call privileged accounts within organizations. Think of them as like the master keys, the accounts with the highest levels of access.
So if Wiz is like building the fortress walls, CyberArk is guarding the crown jewels.
You got it. CyberArk's focus is on stopping attackers from getting control of these super important accounts, which could cause absolute chaos if they fell into the wrong hands. They're a well-established player in the industry, and they never stop innovating, which is vital in a field that moves as fast as cybersecurity.
Always got to stay one step ahead of the bad guys. Who else is on your radar?
Keep an eye on Cato Networks. They're doing something they call SASO Secure Access Service Edge. It's a mouthful, I know, but it boils down to simplifying network security in our crazy, complex digital world.
Because it's not just about protecting one computer or phone anymore, it's about securing the entire network.
Precisely. Cato gives you this cloud-based platform that brings together networking and security functions, making it way easier for businesses to manage security across all their locations, all their devices.
Streamlined and secure. Makes perfect sense. Okay, so we've covered cybersecurity pretty well. What about artificial intelligence? You said earlier that Israel's AI scene is buzzing.
It really is. One company that springs to mind is AI-21 Labs. They're doing some really exciting work with generative AI, using AI to create completely new content.
Generative AI, that's one of those buzzwords you hear everywhere these days. What's AI-21's angle?
Their focus is on developing AI systems that don't just generate text, but really understand the nuances of language and context. Think of it as moving beyond simple mimicry of human language to actually grasping meaning and creating truly meaningful content.
So are we talking about AI that can write a best-selling novel?
Maybe, who knows? But their applications go way beyond that. They're making tools that can analyze massive data sets, create personalized content, even translate languages with incredible accuracy.
Unlocking possibilities in so many different areas.
Absolutely. And they're not the only ones. Another company pushing the boundaries is Nexar. They're developing artificial vision systems for self-driving cars.
Self-driving cars. It's like something out of science fiction, except it's becoming our reality.
And Nexar's right there on the front lines. They're using AI to create systems that can actually see and interpret the road, making autonomous driving safer, more reliable. They're even taking data from their network of dash cams and using it to improve their AI algorithms.
It's like they're crowdsourcing data to train self-driving cars. That's a really clever approach.
It is. It shows how intertwined all this technology is becoming. Of course, you can't talk about Israeli innovation without mentioning healthcare.
A nation at the forefront of medical advancements. What are some of the companies in that space that you're excited about?
NanoX Imaging is definitely one to keep an eye on. They're shaking up the medical imaging industry with this brand new X-ray device that uses digital technology instead of the old school film.
making high-quality medical imaging way more affordable and accessible to everyone.
Exactly. And here's the kicker. Their technology doesn't just bring the cost down, it also means less radiation exposure for patients, which is a big deal, especially for those who need frequent scans.
So it's about better healthcare outcomes and tackling those cost barriers at the same time. Genius. What other companies are making a real difference in this sector?
Oh, we can't forget Teva Pharmaceutical. They're a global powerhouse when it comes to generic drugs. Sure, they've had their ups and downs lately, but their dedication to making those essential medications affordable, that's undeniable.
It's that mix of global reach and positive social impact that makes Israel's economic story so fascinating. It's not just about creating successful businesses, it's about using innovation to tackle real-world problems. We'd be remiss not to mention the elephants in the room, though, right? The challenges Israel faces.
You're absolutely right. It would be naive to ignore the geopolitical realities in the region, that constant tension simmering beneath the surface. It's something investors always have to factor in.
It really makes you think, how much further ahead could they be if some of those pressures were lifted? But then again, maybe those very challenges are part of what drives their incredible innovation.
It's a question economists love to debate. Does necessity really breed invention? In Israel's case, there's a strong argument to be made. It's played a big part in their economic journey.
It's amazing to think about those external pressures shaping their internal drive to innovate. Looking past geopolitics, though, are there any internal challenges that could throw them off course?
Well, one thing that's worrying some people is the widening gap between the highly skilled tech elites and, well, everyone else. As the tech sector takes off, there's this risk of leaving people behind, potentially leading to social unrest, making existing inequalities even worse.
It's the downside of booming economic growth, isn't it? The benefits don't always reach everyone equally, which creates new problems even as they're solving old ones.
Precisely. To make their prosperity last, to make it inclusive, Israel has to find a way to address those social and economic disparities.
So they've got to keep that economic engine running while making sure things are fair for everyone. Not an easy task. What's your take on their future? Can they keep this incredible momentum going?
It's impossible to say for sure. Anyone who claims they can predict the future is selling something. But I'm cautiously optimistic about Israel's long-term prospects.
Yeah.
They've shown this uncanny ability to adapt, to innovate, to overcome obstacles. It's like that entrepreneurial spirit is woven into their very being.
And they've figured out the secret sauce for fostering innovation. From government policies to cultural attitudes, they've created an environment where creativity can bloom. If there's one thing we've learned today, it's that in a world facing these huge, unprecedented challenges, ingenuity is the most precious resource there is.
Absolutely. And that's what makes Israel's story so powerful, so resonant. It's a testament to the sheer power of human ingenuity to beat the odds, even when they seem stacked against you.
Makes you wonder, doesn't it? If Israel, with its limited resources, its constant geopolitical challenges, can transform itself into this global innovation powerhouse, what could other nations achieve? What's possible if they commit to education, research, to building a culture that rewards creativity and sees risk-taking as a good thing?
It's a question worth asking. The lessons we can take from Israel's journey, they go way beyond just economics. This is a story about resilience, about determination, about daring to dream big, even when everything seems impossible.
And that's something we can all learn from, no matter where we are, no matter what challenges we're up against. If this deep dive has sparked your curiosity, and I'm willing to bet it has, I urge you to keep digging. There's a whole world of information out there just waiting to be discovered. Until next time, keep asking those big questions, keep seeking out new perspectives, and never underestimate the power of human ingenuity. This is The Deep Dive, signing off.